Great stuff. But let's briefly move on to your Hornet time. As I said, we could probably talk about the Hornet as a whole other episode. But if you can tell us what it was like going on, and did you enjoy flying it?
Absolutely. So it was a bit of a road to the Hornet. After I got back from VF-41, I attended staff college in Australia. Highly recommend overseas staff college if you can swing it. Had a great time down there for a year, and then did my staff assignment at headquarters U.S. European Command in Germany, which was again another great time. Loved living in Germany, and that was where I screened for command. And the nice thing about being in Germany for your staff assignment as opposed to the Pentagon is I got to wear my flight suit every day. So always a bonus. Walking around in footsie pajamas all day. I miss it terribly. But after I got selected for command, I went to VF 125 Rough Raiders out there at Naval Air Station Lemoore to get checked out on the Hornet. Because I'd never flown the Hornet before, I was scheduled for a full workup starting in December, about a 9 month full syllabus. Ended up getting about 3 or 4 months so I could join them on crews. And so essentially it was a couple familiarization flights, 1 or 2 bomb dropping flights, a couple ACM flights, and then FCLP, and then back out to the boat. Hornet, so easy to fly. Flying itself, the flight control system was great. Autopilot was great. Auto throttles were great. Having a working flight path marker, the Tomcat with the Legacy INS. Yeah, we had a flight path marker, but the one thing that you trusted about the flight path marker was that it was not accurate. So in the Hornet, when you're lining up to do your carrier landing, you can put the flight path marker in the crotch of the angle, the forward part of the angle before the Cats 1 and 2 go forward. Hold it there, and that would give you a good stabilized sight picture to fly the ball and trap. The Tomcat was you never looked at the flight path marker. It would just get you dizzy and didn't do anything well. And of course, the HUD jumped around all the time. So it was truly a visual approach in the Tomcat. It was hard. It was work. I never made the top 10 in the Tomcat. Every line period in the Navy, the folks with the highest landing grades, the top 10 of those would get a patch. In VF 111, it was always the Hornet guys. Every now and then, we'd have a Tomcat guy break into the top 10. Always the Hornet guys. Again, that's where I thought they were cheating. Got to fly the Hornet and realized, yes, they were in fact cheating. Because you go in there with the auto throttles, you put the flight path marker at the crotch, you just sort of look at the ball, flight path marker, angle of attack, auto throttles, boom, 3-wire. Never once bolted. Actually got to make the top 10 once when I was in VFA 25. But again, a reduced syllabus. The instructors there were great. They knew I had lots of experience, but again, not a whole lot of experience in the Hornet. Got through that and joined VFA 25, Fist of the Fleet, out on cruise there in 2006, and got out there. They said that I had about 60 hours or so in the Hornet at that point. And they said, okay, you're going to do a practice ride. We're going to give an LGB. You go to the bombing range in Kuwait. I'm like very familiar there because of my time in Al Jaber. I dropped an LGB. They said, okay, now you're good to go for OIF. I'm like, okay. And so I started in OIF there in 2006 with VFA 25, and just flew a lot of neat missions over there. Great JOs, great squadron, great air wing. We had 2 Super Hornet squadrons and 2 Hornet squadrons. Our sister squadron was the 113, VFA 113. And of course, we had 2 Super Hornet squadrons as well. They were great. The one difficulty was that there were 5 Beakers in the air wing. Unfortunately, I thought I had a fairly unique call sign. This is the first time I ran into that. There was one on the admiral's staff, so he was Beaker the Elder. There was an operations officer in the other one of the Super Hornet squadrons. He was a short Beaker. There was another executive officer who was Beaker in the Super Hornets, and then I was tall Beaker. So we had it all sort of sorted out with modifiers there, but it was interesting being one of many Beakers. a lot of fun missions that first cruise over OIF. The one thing that made the Hornet unique from the Tomcat was that you could actually do night strafing. Where we had night vision goggles in the Tomcat, but because the Tomcat, the gun was pointed about 3 degrees high, which is ideal for air-to-air gunnery, not so much for air-to-ground gunnery. So we never really did night strafe in the Tomcat. In the Hornet, where it's on the fuselage center line, we practiced it and did it. I practiced it once with goggles. It's really kind of tricky because when you night strafe, you're on the pattern, you're on the goggles, it's okay. But as soon as you pull the trigger and the gun goes off, you're blinded. You can't really see anything out of the goggles, can't really see into the cockpit. So it can be very, very challenging. One of my first couple of missions over in OIF, Iraqi Freedom, I'm leading wingman JO from the sister squadron. We're up there. It's at nighttime, and again, I've got 65, 70 hours in the Hornet. And the ground controller says, "Hey, we got a target. We want to know if you're up for some night strafing." And I'm like, I've done it once. It's like that commercial. Hey, are you an expert? I stayed at Holiday Inn Express last night. Like, no, I wasn't an expert. So I asked my wingman. He was pretty junior. I said, "Hey, how comfortable are you night strafing?" He said, "Well, not very. This is on our attack frequency." I said, "Well, you know what? Me neither." And so collective team decision there. We said, "Hey, not ready for the night strafing right now. How about a show of force, show of presence?" He said, "That'll work just fine." And so we went down low, dropped a bunch of flares, made ourselves known, a lot of burner, shook them up quite a bit, but did not do night strafing that time there. Just wasn't quite ready for it. And again, that's critical decision making. That was a safety decision. You got to take into account capabilities of both yourself and your wingman. And I stand by that decision. A lot of other great times, again, over Iraq, just some targeting, day strafing. One situation coming back from one of the missions, it was a night recovery. It was a daytime launch. We went out and did our mission daytime. I'm coming back, and I'm flying off wing of one of our more senior JOs. And the one thing I remember from my first tour in VF-111 was the worst thing that could happen in a Hornet was if you had runaway winds and the inertial navigation system dumped. Why? Because they lost that beautiful flight path marker, that beautiful velocity vector that told them everything about the airplane. And I knew that was a big deal. And every time that happened, they'd let them have one or two looks at the deck, and then they would divert them to the beach. And so I'm coming back to the carrier, and all of a sudden I'm looking, I see my flight path marker just track all the way over to the right. I'm like, "Hey, what are you showing for winds?" He said, I asked my flight lead, he said, "Yeah, they're out of the southeast at about 10 knots. I'm showing 270 at 100. Yeah, it looks like you got runaway winds. You need to dump your INS, turn your INS off." So I did that. Like, okay, like I'm in standby, huh? I remember that. They always used to divert the folks to Kuwait. So we go back and check into the boat. I'm in standby. And I'm waiting for them to tell me, "Hey, your signal divert to Al Jaber or Kuwait City," and never came. They said, "Okay, fly off your wingman, and he'll drop you off on the ball." I'm like, "Really? At night? Okay." So I flew on his wing. He took me to about a mile, 3/4 of a mile. He peeled off. This is at night. And I transitioned from flying wing to flying the ball. And it was just a standard Tomcat approach, really. I'm used to the water line, adding power. The auto throttles weren't working with that either. And so I'm just flying a manual landing. Landed kind of hard. I apologized for doing a Tomcat landing, did not pop a code. Safe recovery, no problem, first pass. Taxied down the wires, landed, shut down, went into the ready room, and everybody said, "Hey, great job on the standby approach." And then the junior officer, who was the squadron duty officer, said, "Hey, nice job, but that's odd how the airborne realignment with the GPS didn't work for you." I said, "The what?" I said, "Yeah, you can do a realignment with the GPS airborne." I'm like, I've got 60 hours. You guys are supposed to talk to me about this, okay? I didn't know this. I didn't have that in the Tomcat. It wasn't the Hornet. You got to give me the information. I felt like Austin Powers, when he was Dr. Evil there.
Yeah.
I need the info here, people. I've been asleep for 20 years. And so, we had just to talk about, don't assume, and that goes into a lot of the crew resource management at the time, the human factors, don't assume everybody knows everything, make sure everybody's clear, go through all the procedures. And we had a big meeting on that after that. So just because I had 2,000 hours at the top in the Tomcat, I had 600 hours in the F-117. I was actually had some of the top flight time on base at the time by the time I left, because a lot of the Air Force guys were mid-career, so they'd do about a year or two and then go to staff college or to another assignment. I got a full almost 3.5 years there. I was high man, but I only had 60 hours of the Hornet. So yes,
Yeah.
I knew a lot, but I don't know all the technical stuff. So feed the old guys the info there. Don't assume they know everything.